Hey guys, Chicky Domain, aka DaBuh, DaBuh.com with a DaBuh.com video forecast update. This forecast update effective around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. And OK, would like to welcome new followers by letting you know that we are primarily a surf and marine forecaster covering the North Atlantic Basin, and during tropical season, we track tropical cyclones. So if you are not a surfer or a mariner, our forecast updates may not be for you. You just may be interested in when the next storm may be coming or whether or not it's going to affect your area. So if we happen to be talking about a fish storm, which this may or may not may end up being, where it's not going to affect land, please know that that's what we want. We want a storm to stay out in the ocean and just create seas, large seas and or large surf. We don't want to see any landfalling systems that may produce damage along any land areas. That's not what we're about. So we don't want you to think that because we keep posting about a fish storm that we're trying to hype something. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want. All right, start you off with the latest tropical weather outlook out of the National Hurricane Center, showing a shaded area in the northern Bahamas east of the Florida coast with a 70% chance of development next 5 days. Now, I say next 5 days, but it looks like we're going to see development in probably about 72 hours. Now, when you're looking at this image here, even though it's a shaded area, one of the things that's missing from here is an X signifying where the area of spin is, where they believe that's going to start to spin up as the tropical cyclone or subtropical cyclone. But if you've been following along on our feeds, you know we've been talking about an area of spin that was over here in the Gulf of Honduras that has lifted up off the tip of the Yuke and is now lifted through the Yuke Channel, and it's right off the northwest tip of Cuba right now, and that's going to start to slide off towards the east, probably right through the Florida Straits in here, and then get into the Bahamas, and then once it gets in the Bahamas, it's going to have that chance to spin up, at least looking at the models. Going to switch you over to some imagery now, and this is the real-time composite image. And we'll start you off with a bigger picture here, and that is up in here in the northwest U.S., there's an area of spin that's going to track across the United States. We'll show you that here in the models that may end up interacting with what should become Subtropical Storm Arthur in about 72 hours just east of the Florida coast. Give me a second here and we'll zoom in. And this is that area of spin that we're talking about. And if you have been following us on our feed, excuse me, let me get back to that. Here it is right here. Here's that area of spin. This was yesterday's high resolution imagery, and here's that area of spin. Notice how there's a little pinhole right here, a little clearing. And so for those not understanding spin, it's a counterclockwise spin, and it may not be down at the surface, but in the atmosphere. But this thing is, if I was to put this into motion, you would see it spinning like this. Now, let's go back to the real-time imagery and the loop in here. And so that, what you just saw, was down in here yesterday, right here. And you can kind of see that there's still a little bit of spin left right here, but that spin has now moved up through the Yucatan Channel now and is off the northwest tip of Cuba. Let me zoom this back out, and then I got to zoom back in. It just happens to be one of those things with the app here. And we'll zoom back down in here. And so this area of spin that's in here like this is going to move through the Florida Straits and then get into the Bahamas where it get a chance to develop. Now, I'm going to switch you over to this afternoon's run of the GFS model. And so here's real time now. You can see that this little green patch of rain right in here in between the Yucatan Channel, the tip of northwest of Cuba. That's what this is right here. Okay. And so watch as we progress in the model. You'll watch it as it starts to lift a little bit, and then it'll start to work its way towards the Florida Straits. Now, I'm assuming that sometime here in the next 48 hours, 72 hours, the National Hurricane Center is going to designate 90 L invest. For those not knowing what an invest is short for investigate. So the National Hurricane Center is putting a number on it of 90. It starts off in the numerical number 90. And so the next one after this one passed would be 91. And it runs all the way up to 99 before it starts back over again with 90. So this upcoming first system of the 2020 Atlantic tropical cyclone season will be designated as 90 L invest. And I'm assuming that it'll probably be about 48 hours or so before they tag it. And it'll probably be about right there. This is Saturday. So that's at 60 hours. They may tag it before then. But I also wanted to back up for just a second. And for those of you who, think that I might be out in left field, I posted earlier today when I saw this image that I smell a rat. And I don't know if you can see this or not, or if it looks like it to you, but this looks like the head of a rat to me, and then the rat body. And so when I saw that, I was like, because I've been through this many times before. I'm like, you know what? Now I got a feeling the GFS is getting ready to change up from what it's been showing. And sure enough, as the model progressed, and when you look at these models, you're only getting an image at a time. And so as it progressed, and when it got to past the 7-day window, I was like, oh, there it is. There's the rat. So I'll show you that here in just a moment, but I just wanted to point that out to you that, these are kind of the things that I see. It may be, I'm not the normal meteorologist, which by the way, I have no formal training in meteorology, but I like to tell people I have a BS from the University of Google search. I'm self-taught in everything that I do. And it's all because I put things in the Google search bar and I read a lot of stuff from the National Hurricane Center. So I'm going to progress the model for you here, or advance the model for you. Now this gets into Saturday here. I'll back it up and let me back it up and start it back over again. So you already know about the area spin that's in the Yucatan Channel, and we'll start to speed it up. And then this gets into Saturday. And I'll back that up one more time right there, and I'll stop it right there. Now look over here in the Bahamas. Right? I don't know if this looks like it to you, but this looks like a heart to me. Okay? And the reason why I say that is because guess what? 3 days ago, we posted hole in my heart. Here it is right here. Okay? So this is from, it's timestamped at the bottom. It was dated, it was 11. So just 2 days ago. Okay? Let me zoom back out. So look right here. Does that not look like a heart right there in the middle of the heart that I drew? And when I posted on the social feeds, I said hole in my heart. I'll zoom that back out because the other feature that's in this image is the upper level low that's right here. Okay. And this upper level low, it's the first one that we've had in the Atlantic of the 2020 season. It's also associated with some lower wind shear. Wind shear is running about 15 to 20 knots associated with this. Now, going back over here to the system that we're going to be watching, wind shear is running, I think last time I looked, about 50 knots. So wind shear is unfavorable for anything to develop right now over in the Bahamas. But this is about to change. It looks like things are going to become favorable here in about 72 hours for this thing to spin up. So going back to this was picked out. And again, these are things that I see in the imagery that give me the hints to be able to see the things that I need to see and then look to verify what I'm seeing in the models. Now, this is a difference between someone that's a model watcher and who just, all they do is just constantly just look at models, but then don't bother to go look at what the imagery is showing you. The models can show you anything that they want, but if it's not in the imagery, what good is it to show it to you in the model? So for those of you guys that are just model watchers, get into the habit of looking at the imagery and verifying what you see in the model with what you see in the imagery. It's a matter of repetitive observation. If you watch satellite loops constantly, I can't tell you how many nights I stayed up just watching loop after loop after loop to get a feel for how the flow of things go. All right, so we'll advance the model for you some more. This is going into Sunday. Excuse me. And we'll get to talk about the surf forecast here now as this thing starts to spin up. Now, mind you, this is one model run of many more to come. And this does not necessarily mean that this GFS is correct. But I will say this, the GFS over the last week or so, has been handling things, in my opinion, very well. And so that's why I'm stuck with it. Even though the European model is advertised as one of the most accurate models out there, the European model for the last 2 weeks has been following the GFS's lead. And so, we know that the GFS has had biases, but those biases typically are outside of 10 days. When you stay inside a 5-day window, the chances of the model being wrong or way off are very slim. They're even slimmer when you get into a 72-hour window. So if you start to compare the European model versus the GFS and stay inside that 5-day window, then figure out what the differences are between the two models, then go look at the imagery and see which one is closer to it. Now, this is for Sunday. Now, Sunday is starting to set up surf alert conditions along the East Florida coast. And the other thing that I'll point out to you in this image right here is back over here towards Texas. Now that's, if I was to expand this view, when we talked about that area of spin that's out of the Northwest U.S., it's up there in the central U.S. now. And this is part of that front that's going to be associated with that area of spin. Possible heavy rains coming to those folks over in the Texas and Louisiana area, so be prepared for that. This image is for Sunday, coming up this weekend. Going to advance the model for you just a little bit more, and you'll see that the area of low pressure starts to move away from the coast a little bit. Now, this is due east of northeast Florida, right on latitude 30 would be centered, and we're going to get northeast winds in here starting to produce large seas. I would say they would probably be getting up into the 15 to 20 foot range and some northeast groundswell developing. Okay, advance the model for you a little bit more going into Monday, and you can see the system tighten up a little bit more and then get closer just to the southeast of the Outer Banks. Now, here's where things get a little hairier, and that is that the system becomes weighted on the south and southeast side that cuts down on the northeast wind flow in here. So although we've got an area of spin, the majority of the winds are coming now out of the west and west and southwest in here as it's wrapping up this way. So it's going to cut off or at least stop producing swell. So give us a little short window, but it's then later in the forecast coming next week where we might get a wraparound northeast swell coming out of the northeast with some longer periods. All right, so I had to change up views there for a second, but look at this, and I'll back it up because here comes that area of low pressure we talked about from the northwest U.S. that we pointed out. Now this is, give me 1 second. Let me adjust this so I can see the date. Okay, going back again to Sunday. So watch this crossing the upper U.S., that area of low pressure in here. Here's that area of low pressure that's down over here towards Texas that's become a part of its frontal system. Okay, and then here's what should be Arthur moving up towards the Outer Banks. Okay, and then we'll advance the model just a little bit more. Look at this deep rain moving into the northeast U.S. in here. So there could be a chance for some excessive rainfall. And here comes that rat that we were talking about. I'll advance the model for some more for you. Again, this is going into Monday. And then again, this is all westerly winds in here, east of Florida. So it looked like we were going to get some really good swell out of this, but now things might be changing up a little bit. So don't hold me to it. I don't want to get accused of hype, but there's some other factors that are setting in. If you saw that we talked about a possible major swell event, we'll show you that too. Maybe the afternoon run or tomorrow's runs will switch back with the GFS, but look at this, 987 millibar, and look at this large area of low pressure that's developing. Now, I want you to imagine this, okay, when we talk about the possibility of a major swell event. And let me zoom this back out because, okay, that's as much as I can zoom out, it looks like. All right, so up in here in the North Atlantic, just to the southeast of Greenland, the models have been showing a pretty strong area of low pressure that's going to develop in here, and that's going to get some northeast groundswell coming out of the North Atlantic. Now, if this area of low pressure, let's say tomorrow that the GFS actually pushes this offshore in here, then you would open up northeast fetch along the eastern United States, northeast United States, and you'd have northeast groundswell coming out of the North Atlantic pushing into this area of low pressure. and then creating or magnifying that northeast groundswell and pushing it down towards the Florida coast. Gonna advance the model for you a little bit more. Mind you, this is the 5-day window we're in right here. We're not outside of 5 days, so we'll advance the model. This is going day 6 now, and then going into day 7, and then look, again, although we've got some northerly fetch in here, the majority of this is all southwest winds blowing up into the North Atlantic. So now you have two opposing forces. You've got the northeast swell that was probably going to come out of the North Atlantic, but you got southwest swell blowing into it, and those two negate itself. Okay, so I'm going to stop it right here at the 7-day window. There's no sense in going any further, just because the models could switch up. Now, I do want it. It's 2:41 now, and so the European model should be out and loaded. Let me check that. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, here's the European model, and it's the first time that I've had the chance to look at it. As I've been cutting this video, it was loading, and sure enough, man, just like I said, I smell a rat. There's the rat. So let's hope the models change up a little bit, but here, I'll advance the model for you. This is 48 hours. If you look down there in the Florida Straits, you'll see that little tinge of orange, okay, and then boom, up through the Bahamas, and then here comes the development of that area of low pressure. Now, look up here off the mid-Atlantic. You see that we have all westerly winds in here. Okay, so that's not creating any surf, but down in here, we've got easterly trade winds blowing up into the backside of this. So this will get some east-southeast wind, trade wind swell coming up in here to the Outer Banks, up into the south-facing beaches, southeast-facing beaches of the Carolinas. Advance the model one more time for you, and then here comes the northeast. Let me zoom in if I can here. Here comes the northeast winds and swell for Florida in here. Advance the model one more. Bear with me, guys. I promise I'll get these kinks worked out before the season really gets going. And so this is for Monday. So Monday, again, pretty fair agreement as far as the motion of the system is concerned. And again, agreement with another area of low pressure moving in here towards the northeast U.S. with that secondary low, or that other area of low pressure that was out of Texas and Louisiana. And then advance the model for you one more time. This is day 6 and day 7, and there is the killer. So you've got this wrapping up with this area of low pressure in here, but look, it's all westerly winds. Advance the model back to day 7. It's all westerly winds and southwest wind flow in here on the backside of this area of low pressure. That is not a good sign for surf, at least not at the moment, guys. So, you know, I hate getting accused of hype. I know a lot of guys, they always say, well, that's why, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. And I'm just trying to give you the best that I possibly can. You know, the model has been on, and then all of a sudden we get one run that throws a wrinkle into it. That's all I got for you for now. Stay tuned for the next update. Hopefully the models are going to switch up, but a lot less exciting than what it was 24 hours ago. Thanks for following.